break it down. I mean, you want to go through our top 10? You want to do a top 10 analysis? Who we think have the 10 best
Best
odds,
odds.
or like to us, like who do we think has the best chance?
Okay. Um.
I lost my notebook. One second.
Oh yeah, go grab that. Spittin Hoops. We write things down here.
I'll do like my notebooks.
Um.
So I mean, number one. I mean, let's just rip it off. Let's rip off the
Yeah.
Band-Aid. I think the Celtics are number one. Um,
Yeah. I'm gonna speak on the Celtics in a bit more detail, but I will agree with you in terms of all their players have won a championship or two. No, just one. Of them have won two.
yeah,
Um, and I think there's just more question marks in the East. I mean, right now, tonight is a great matchup between the Cavs and the Thunder, who have been the two best teams, who both have historically great records, who records at the moment are on par with the Golden State Warriors and the Chicago Bulls, 73 and 72 win seasons, which is incredible.
is this
Um,
the highest win percentages between a regular season matchup ever? So I saw a weird stat like that.
that might be the case. I did see
Yeah,
that this is the third time where two teams on 10 plus game winning streaks have faced off against each other,
elite. I cannot
which
wait.
is crazy. Yeah, super cool. That game's happening right now. That's coming down to the wire as one would expect. Um, so we'll have to stay tuned on that. But yeah, I'd say the Celtics. Just I'll talk about them a bit more in a bit. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can give my breakdown as to why I think they're definitely the best team. I mean, number one, I think first of all, they're a very healthy team. This is not a team that gets hurt very often, except for one player, which is Porzingis. They've
yeah.
managed him pretty well. Will continue to manage him, and even if he's out for a playoff series, they can win a playoff series no matter who it's against. Like Porzingis raised the ceiling, but in general, they're already really good. Um, Two, I think their backcourt, especially now with Peyton Pritchard in the mix, they have 30 minutes of hell between three players that, they're not playing anyone else out of their backcourt. And it's going to be Pritchard is going to give you 20 points off the bench. Drew is going to give you super annoying defense, and Derek White's going to give you both. Um, so just that. And I haven't yet talked about the NBA Finals MVP, Jaylen Brown. Now you haven't yet talked about a guy who I consider to be a top five player in the NBA, fifth in my list, but still Jason Tatum. So I think clearly they're still a step ahead of the rest. I have worries about other teams that I don't necessarily have about this team. And some of the worries that I have about this team are worries that I have about other good teams. So specifically, one of my big worries is offensively, late game still scares me. I know last year they figured it out. And at a certain point, if you're beating every team by 15 going in the fourth quarter, it's hard to lose. But it's still not, as much as I love Jason Tatum, he's still not the hero ball player that sometimes I wish he would be. So yeah, that's kind of my breakdown. I still think they're pretty clearly the favorites. Gun to my head, picking the Celtics on the chip.
Mm, I like that. All right. While we're talking about the Celtics, can I just talk for a quick sec about them?
Yeah.
So the Celtics played the Thunder, and at one point they were up like 12 or 13, and they were they were playing really really well. Going to the basket, Jaylen Brown could not miss. They were just attacking the rim. They were attacking the Thunder. They were drawing a lot of fouls. It looked really good, and it just felt like the shoe was going to drop. And when the Celtics just start getting three happy, it does not go well for them. Of late, they've played some really rough second halves. And this Thunder game was tough. I mean, I was excited that they beat the Nuggets, but they didn't play with Jokic, and that was a close game. They lost to the 76ers, to your point with the late game execution, where they just let go of the rope. They lost to the Magic without Paolo and without Franz. They almost lost to the Timberwolves, which was another close game right at the end. They had an ugly loss to the Pacers, and they blew out the Raptors. But besides that, there's some shades of this 2022, 2023 type Celtics where it's right at the end of the games. Who do you trust? The ball stops moving, and it does not. It's not a gut feeling. So I took the liberty, and I went and I texted a bunch of people that we know, people that I know.
No way. I didn't know this was a survey.
I surveyed a bunch of people. I surveyed Knicks fans, Thunder fan, Lakers, 76ers, Warriors fan, that was not you. Heat, Bulls, Mavericks, and Blazers, and Magic. And I asked them specifically about Jason Tatum, who you just said. And I said, does Jason Tatum scare you? When you're playing against him, does Jason Tatum scare you? Some quotes that I got back. From a Thunder fan, he doesn't actually strike fear. From a Knicks fan, I respect him as a guy to game plan against, but not going to will his team to victory. Another fan, nah, I'm more scared of Derek White. From a Magic fan, we can usually disrupt Tatum on defense, but JB and D White are unstoppable and they scare me. From a Bulls fan, does not frighten me like LeBron or Curry or Giannis, although he will drop 30 when needed. From the Lakers fan, the Team USA bench rider, not particularly. I do fear Derek White. From the Mavs fan, and this was before the finals, I knew the team as whole was going to be tough to beat, but to be honest, I was not scared to face the Celtics, especially not because of Tatum. Sixers fan, nope, not at all. Not like Steph, LeBron, or Luka. The Celtics as a team, they scare me. Warriors fan, he's a much, much better player than in the 2022 finals, but I'm not afraid of Tatum as I am as the Celtics depth roster. The Blazers fan, Tatum can or has taken over some games, but it's not a shtick. Not scared of him like I am Luka or Jokic. And from the Miami Heat fan, we all saw this tweet. I don't know if you've seen this. It's a big Celtics Twitter thing. Jason Tatum has made yet another Eastern Conference star leave the conference. And everybody underneath that was going, nah, it's not Jason Tatum. And this Miami Heat fan said, I can tell you it's not number 0 why Jimmy's leaving. It's the guy in Milwaukee. But Jaylen Brown and Derek White do scare me. And mind you, the Heat have beat the shit out of the Milwaukee Bucks in the last couple of years. There is something that is still missing, and it is amazing that the Celtics won the championship, and I am unbelievably happy and grateful for it. And Jason Tatum is still a top 7 player in the NBA, I would say. But there's still something missing, and there's this lack of fear, and it's hard to put your finger on it. But if we don't turn this shit around, whoever we face in the West, there's a really good chance, and if it's the Thunder, they did not look scared of us at all. They looked confident even when they were down by 10 points, and they just slowly chipped away until the Celtics, they started beating themselves. And the Thunder are really, really good. So I think the Celtics are going to be fine. They're 27-10. I'm complaining about a team that's 27-10, but we got to figure this out. We got to start mowing teams down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, first of all, that is sensational polling.
Thank you.
Frankly, I mean, you asked me the question before I think you went out and asked everyone else, and I was just straight up like, I just straight up was like, it's the backcourt. It's literally the backcourt. The backcourt scares me. They have the most versatile. They also have, frankly, they have a backcourt that lets you have 2 swing players be your best players. I mean, we've seen that be a problem in other places like the Clippers. And the backcourt allows you to have that flexibility a lot of times, in my opinion. Yeah, they're the ones who scared me. To Tatum's credit, on the other hand, if he had that it factor, he'd be the best player in the world. You know, like
That's true.
there's when it comes to these swings, the margins are pretty tight because they are not usually game manipulators, and if they are, they're LeBron James. And like, you know, KD, for example, is probably the best swing I'll ever see in my life. And you know, he wasn't considered the best player in the world at very many points, you know, and so like the margins are tough. The margins are tough for a swing player to be considered the best player in the world because they're not as ball dominant, and then also the defensive potential is not as high as a center a lot of times. So that's kind of my thing, to give Tatum some credit because he is the best small forward in the world, in my opinion. So like that's the other aspect. Probably the best power forward in the world if you don't consider Giannis to be a power forward, right? So that's the thing. Like that's why his skill set is still so valuable, and there's a reason I still consider him to be a top 5 player, despite him. I consider him to be a better player right now than Curry, even though Curry strikes more fear in more people's hearts, I think, pretty unanimously than Tatum. You know, but Tatum's skill set is so unique and is so valued in today's NBA. So that's the other side. Does he scare me? No. And could that be a problem? Absolutely.
And that's the last that's the last key to unlock. Like if him and Jaylen Brown can figure out like even during the playoffs last year, they just beat the shit out of the Mavs as a team, and they just schematically were unbelievable. Like the way that they were able to force the Mavericks into tough shots and get Luka in foul trouble early and just attack them. That's how they beat them. You look at the statistics of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and they both averaged around 20, 22 points per game. Very good all around games for sure. And definitely pluses, absolutely. Um, but that Celtics team last year has the worst best player since the 2014 San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, probably.
Um,
I mean, every other player was pretty much considered the best player in the league at the point that they won the chip, right?
right.
Curry, the only debatable one, or KD. Even KD, both years he won it, debatable. Curry at the beginning, debatable. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
But,
So I don't
but
know.
I don't know. But I mean, to your point, Jason Tatum is absolutely unbelievable. And this is just me picking hairs, but I just felt a little bit of that against the Warriors, against the Heat last 2 years.
And I think it's
Um,
very valid, especially in the NBA, that the margins are slimmer in today's NBA than it was last year's NBA.
that's true.
Let's be honest. Like there's a lot more competition this year.
Yeah.
Um, even the Mavericks are better than they were last year, and they're getting spanked in the West. So it's
Yeah.
like I still think the Mavericks are really good, by the way, but just as a comparison. Um, with
All
that,
right.
okay,
Yes,
that's
sir.
number one. Do you want to give me your number two? Who do you think has the second best odds to win the NBA
Yeah.
championship?
I absolutely no doubt in my mind the Oklahoma City Thunder. We had our
Mm.
Oklahoma City Thunder fan Sherman on the podcast before the season started, and I think I was slightly dismissive of some of his takes, but they have been absolutely unreal. I think 3-point shooting is the only flaw, or is the biggest flaw of concern because they are middle of the pack to like lower part of the pack, and at least in terms of 3-point percentage. But other than that, they have a top three, if not top two player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're still waiting for Chet to come back. We have not seen him and Hartenstein play together. Casey Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins have been unbelievable. Jalen Williams has taken a step. Dude, this team looks really scary. The only other issue besides that is just lack of experience because they did get bounced in the second round last year. So for me, that's the second best team.
Okay, I agree. So first, off the top, I agree. I think this is a
Sure.
spectacular team. I think these are the two best teams in the league.
Yeah.
But their offense, I have similar worries about their offense in the Celtics. I am not super scared of anyone. I think SJ is really, really good, obviously. SJ don't strike fear into my heart like some other players do. I'm gonna to be quite honest. I think maybe that is less SGA and their offense getting stagnant and tough moments because they really, when it comes down to stretches, they're very dependent on J Dub being a very active second offensive option when they don't have Chet. Um, and so maybe that's more of what I'm feeling than SGA, poo-pooing SGA, right?
Mhm.
But their offense, when it comes down to stretches of the game, they get stagnant in similar ways to the Celtics. It's actually sometimes it feels like a really striking reminder. Um, so that's my worry. That said, defensively, just like the Celtics, they're so good. Chet isn't here, and they're still battering teams. Um, but I think they're absolutely beatable. I think they're extremely beatable. Will they get beat? I don't know. This is definitely a beatable team, though. I think.
All right. I like it.
Because I think
So
if like I think your blueprint. Just sorry, really quick.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think your blueprint. Like I think the Mavs could beat the Thunder. Like I think there's absolutely a route because if Luca is just slamming SGA for a whole series, Kyrie, if he's going off defensively, I know you have iHeart and Chet, but you got Lively and PJ and Dan Gafford on the other side. Like that matchup is still a very tough matchup. You're very dependent on J Dub specifically in that series, just like you were last year. Um, and they're definitely beatable in my opinion. They're definitely beatable. Not a lot of teams could beat the Thunder. I think the Mavericks might be the only one in the West, but I think they can be beat
Mhm.
before the finals. Um, God, but a Thunder Celtics matchup would just be fantastic. It
It
would
would
be
feed families.
It would be so good. That would be a heavyweight bout.
Yeah. So would the Mavs. So would the Mavs. That would be sick too. Back to back
That would be kind of fun. I think the
finals.
Mavs are, I think the Celtics are pretty, I think the
Yeah.
Mavericks match up pretty poorly against the Celtics, despite
Hmm.
matching up very well against the Thunder.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyways, I think agree. I think the Thunder are second. Can I give you my third pick and you can tell me if
Yeah.
you agree or disagree?
Yeah. Yeah. You
I
go.
don't think it's a team in the West. I think there's too much plus minusing in the West. And
Okay.
uh, I'm going to take the Cavaliers.
Oh,
Um, right now to me, if like the season ended today, God,
yeah.
this is kind of spicy, but I really think this is pretty clearly the second best team in the East, and they could beat the Celtics. And if someone else beat the Celtics, they would come out of the East, and I think they would beat just about every Western Conference team except for the Thunder. That's my take there. The issue is also with the other taking another Western Conference team over them is I think a lot of the Western Conference teams can be beat by a multitude of other teams if we're not counting the Thunder. I think the Rockets could be beat by 4 or 5 different playoff teams. I think the Nuggets could get beat by 4 or 5 different playoff teams. I think the Cavaliers are a really rough matchup for a lot of teams in the East, honestly,
Mhm.
especially with the way they're playing. So I kind of poo-pooed them on our last podcast, and in 15 days, I've kind of flip-flopped a little bit on them. They're really incredible. I'm more willing to buy in on them and be wrong with if they're 31-4. Like regular season record doesn't mean everything, but if you can
Mhm.
win 80, if you can win 90% of your games, that has to mean something, right? So I'll take the Cavs. You can
Uh,
tell me what you think.
I like it. I I also have an Eastern Conference team, but
Mm,
it is instead it's the Knicks.
okay, I can
Um,
get behind that.
and the biggest reasons are two things. Just historically going back, we're not going to see another team that doesn't have like a top 4 to 5 player in the NBA, unless you consider Tatum to be that, win a championship for another 10 years. Like it's just the way that these things work. Um, yes, they've been unbelievable. They have the same exact team as they did last year, and they've been playing out of their mind. I mean, they did. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched the Thunder, even though it will have been yesterday or 2 days ago by the time this pod is aired. But um, they did beat the Thunder tonight, and Donovan Mitchell shot 3 of 16, and they still won. Ty Jerome had 15 points. Max Strus had 17 points. Just an unbelievably well balanced game. Evan Mobley has taken a step. Dean Wade is really good. I don't think that their small forward concern that has been an issue for the last few years is that big of a deal. I think they
They're
have enough at
mathing it
this
a little
point.
bit. Yeah, they're
They
mathing
are.
it. And
They're
Levert's playing more within his role too, and he was really dependent on to be the small forward at a certain point. Now they're mathing it a little more. I
right.
don't know.
100%. Yeah, like so they're much better. I just think history doesn't suggest it. And that honestly, I don't know if that's amazing analysis, but that's my biggest flop against them. I also think the East. This is not against the West point. The East is really good.
I agree. I
There are a lot
absolutely.
of good teams in the East, and it's they struck. They went to 7 last year against the Magic, who are going to bring back Paolo Banchero, who thank goodness he comes back this week. He looked amazing to start the year. Him and Franz together, that's going to be scary. But yeah, I keep talking about the Cavs. I'll talk about the Knicks. By the way, I do have the Cavs as my 4th best team, so that's my analysis on the Cavs. But with the Knicks, you have 2 guys averaging 25 in Brunson and Towns. Bridges has been playing out of his friggin' mind of late. He's finally shooting the ball much better. Even though his 3-point percentage is still around 35. OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, um, and Miles McBride. Would I like to see them make some sort of deal at the deadline, like an Isaiah Stewart or somebody that can kind of beef up their rebounding? Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. I think also they need more players that can help with just their depth in general because they don't have a lot of guys that are averaging more than. I mean, Campaign is the only other guy besides Precious, and Precious only played 16 games. Who's averaging more than like 15 minutes per game. So that's a big concern. But I think if they're firing on all cylinders the way they have, Cat seems like he's at the peak of his friggin' powers, leading the league in rebounds. Josh Hart is an animal. There's something about that team that has more of an factor for me. So I think I have Knicks at 3.
I think that's fair. I hear you. I think that's fair. I think they're very much in the buyout conversation. Like some guy is going to look at them and be like, oh, like if I get bought out, I'm gonna get 20 minutes in New York.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Which not a lot of teams can offer. Yeah. I'll give it to you. I think the Knicks also have more playoff experience. Like if you're, shout out Ty Jerome, love him. Think he's a
Yeah.
great player. Thought he was awesome with the Warriors. So big fan of him since then. But like, Ty
Mhm.
Jerome, I'd rather bet on 40 minutes of the Knicks starters a game than
Right.
like, than the math that we were talking about sometimes with
Right.
the Cavaliers. I think that's fair. I think I would still personally take the Cavaliers ahead, but I'm willing to admit that it's still the Cavs, Like the roster hasn't changed a lot from what we've
Right.
seen recently. So I think you're very valid.
I think just to add to that, if we can see some sort of playoff, and I don't think Donovan Mitchell has had to be like this 28 points per game guy that he's been in the past, which is fine. But he needs to be that if they're going to have a shot. Like he needs to be, oh yeah, this guy's a top 10 player if they want any chance to win the chip.
yeah, like key into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with that. We're gonna put the Knicks at 3, and we're gonna put the Cavs at 4.
All right.
You want me to take the next one?
Yeah. You take it.
Um, uh, can I go two? I got two Western Conference teams, and I can't decide
Sure.
between the two.
Sure.
I think these next two up,
I feel like we have the same too.
I think it's the Nuggets and the Mavericks.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
we
might
do
have
have the
three,
same.
frankly, I might have three straight. Like, I like my Grizzlies agendas. I think my next three would actually
Ooh.
be Nuggets, Mavericks, Grizzlies potentially. Um, I think I'm gonna still put the Mavericks ahead of the Nuggets because they're just more of an all around team. I also think they've been good this year. I think the Mavericks have been good. They've been unlucky due to injury and still managed to be better than what they were at this point last year, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm pretty in on the Mavericks being fifth, and I think they would beat the Nuggets in a playoff series. Um, Not that that would decide everything, but I think the Mavericks have better math. I could see the Mavericks beating just about most teams in the West. I think they could lose to some teams too, but the Thunder is the nightmare matchup if you're the Mavericks. Like at this
Yeah.
point, I think. Yeah.
I honestly I don't have any additional notes. I think the addition of four-time champion in Klay Thompson is going to be super helpful. Who is shooting 39% from three this year on 8 attempts. I think Kyrie's remained unbelievable. I know that they have been on a bit of a slide of late, but to your point,
No
they
Luca.
don't have Luca. Still do have PJ Washington. Lively is back, and he missed some time. I do like their depth. I like Quentin Grimes. I loved Najee Marshall for a while. He was balling. Spencer Dinwiddie is hot and cold, but he can play really well. They even had Jaden Hardy playing pretty well. I mean, they beat the crap out of the Lakers yesterday without Luca.
Yeah,
Um,
they play well without
so
Luca. Man.
yeah, they do. So I'm with you. Um, and the Nuggets. Um, I think this is just as simple as Jokic is unbelievable. He is the best player in the world. He is averaging 31, 13, and 10. Um, I think Jamal Murray of late has now. I mean, I think he's still cold, but if he can get hot like he was a couple of years ago, I don't know if he's still that guy. Um, Michael Porter Jr. has been playing pretty well. Christian Brown seems to have kind of come into his own. We still need to have Aaron Gordon come back. Russell Westbrook, how about that?
Oh my
He's been
God,
hooping.
can I hit the pause button
Yeah,
really quick? I think I
please.
need to
Yeah.
take the L because do you remember before the season? Well, I think we might have a
Oh,
clip. We might even have a clip
yeah,
on
I
this
remember.
channel of you being like, Russell Westbrook. I think there's really a chance here. Like, if anyone could figure it out, it's Jokic, which I think is
Yeah,
like, it's technically fair. I was just like, I'd be shocked. Like, I'd be shocked to
right.
um, see that happen. But honestly, Russ has just been playing more within himself. I feel like, uh, he's still taking 3.5 threes a game, which I don't love. But at
Yeah,
some point, I mean, he's shooting 33%. And if Russ is shooting 33%, you kind of like take those threes to space out the floor
yeah.
a little bit, right?
Hmm.
And it kind of works. I mean, he gets limited in a good way by Jokic because I mean he's still a turnover machine, right?
Yeah.
Um, but he gets in a good way. He gets limited by Jokic and gets the cut a little bit more because Jokic gets to be the floor spacer. So they're doing fun stuff where Jokic has the ball and they're having Russ screen for Jokic sometimes. Like they're doing quirky stuff. And I'm willing to take the L. Russ is clearly like a positive on this team. I mean, he started what, 15 games?
He has started, yeah, 14 games.
Yeah,
And
like he's good. He's
that's
playing.
that's an interesting question. Do you think he stays when Gordon comes back?
No, no, he can't.
No.
No. Yeah, I mean, they've got their start lineup, I think, pretty figured out. It's Murray Brown, MPJ, Gordon, Jokic. Can't really bench any of those guys, I don't think. Especially with Christian Brown playing this well. I mean, he's been pretty electric this year. You know, he's shooting like 55% from the field or something ridiculous.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Oh my wow.
He's
Yeah,
just
he
like a
is.
slashing machine. Like
Yeah.
he's been really good this year. Very efficient. He doesn't score a ton, but he's very efficient, gives you good defense.
Yeah.
But
Wow. Shooting 63% on twos.
like he's obviously not KCP, but he's that type of role player, aspect player that you needed to replace KCP. I don't think he's obviously as good again.
Mhm.
But he gives you aspects. Gives you aspects off like as a fifth best player, pretty good. Pretty good. Peyton Watson, also more fun. Still can't shoot, but yeah.
Um,
Anyways, I'm behind I'm very with the Nuggets being sixth. I actually think there's kind of a gap here.
I agree that there's so okay, so do we think Celtics, Thunder, and then there's a gap, Knicks, Cavs, Mavs, Nuggets, there's a gap? Is that
Yeah, I think that's
that
very
feels right?
fair. I think that's very fair. I think, if someone wanted to tell me the Magic are in that tier, I would not complain.
Okay. So you had Memphis next.
I do have Memphis next, but it's just because I haven't seen the Magic a ton. Like I'm totally with because and it's also like I think Memphis at full strength because now we're playing the odds, right? Like now I'm talking of who can beat
Who
like
in what
who of the fourth
matchup?
yeah exactly who can be who in what matchup and if some teams just start firing on all cylinders like in the West like I'm not sure if there's another team that I can pencil in for that potential than the
In the
Grizzlies.
West.
Yeah,
Okay.
but then and the issue is like the Magic I think are a better team probably than the Grizzlies. Like if we just look at it, like if they played in a playoff series, I'd probably take the Magic over the Grizzlies, at full strength.
Now,
But they got to get through the Celtics, which is a harder road in theory than Grizzlies. I don't know.
so my honestly, I actually have the Bucks over the Magic here. And the biggest reason for that is maybe it's still like the hangover of beating the Thunder in the championship game of the NBA Cup, but you still have a top three, top four player in the league in Giannis. Um, and still got to see how everything comes together for the Magic. I mean, I really trust their defense, but last year their shot making in the playoffs was scant and really tough, and it was bad. And you can't have that. I think there's just something about like the championship core that I trust more in the Bucks than I do in the Magic. So to your point, is the route for the Magic getting to the Eastern Conference Finals easier potentially based on matchups? Could they navigate that? I totally think that could happen. I think that they could beat the Cavs more likely than maybe the Cavs could beat the Bucks. But I think Damian's had a really good year. I think they still need to figure out some stuff with like what are they going to do with Chris Middleton? Um, he's been slow getting back, but he is shooting 40% from three. Um, I think they need to
I'm
make a
with that.
trade,
I'm kind of
but
with that. I'm not gonna lie. You kind of talked me into them being a little further along, or like maybe a higher floor.
yes,
We're talking about pretty high floor teams still, right? But like
right,
clearly a higher floor than both Memphis on and Orlando. But if we're talking about Orlando specifically, I think I would still take Memphis over them though. I'm gonna be honest. Like the
sure,
Bucks, I think have a really high floor, and I just at this point we're still in an aspect where you would have to beat a lot of good teams.
yeah,
Um, like we're deep enough on the list where like you're not getting a cakewalk, and it's like Milwaukee would have to win two. They would have to like at best case they would have to beat like the Knicks and then the Cavs.
yeah.
That's a tough road. That's a tough
It's,
road for Milwaukee, given
it's
like
a
I think
really
their
tough
lack of
road.
ceiling. Um, and like if someone told if I was in a coma and you woke me up in June and told me that Memphis beat OKC in the Western Conference Finals, like I could believe it.
Ja needs to be able to string together some healthy games for sure
Yeah.
for
And
that
I'm
to
really
happen.
banking on it's like upper potential.
Yeah,
Like I think they just
yeah,
have like in theory, like they have a gear that none of the rest of the teams on the list, I think, have, both offensively and defensively, honestly.
right. No, I'm with you. I mean, the Grizzlies are fun to watch. They beat the Celtics. Um,
I'm gonna get
did
some
they beat the
comment.
Celtics?
We're gonna get some comments about my Grizzlies glazing, by the way. It's gonna be crazy.
I
Um,
love the Grizzlies. Are there any other teams in this Bucks, Magic, Grizzlies?
here.
Do we say the Rockets are in this tier?
Yeah, should
Do we
we give
give
them
them
that
that
respect?
respect?
Should we give them that? Yeah, that's so
I
funny.
feel like I feel like they've earned it, bro. Like I don't think that they're with the other teams that I have lower
You think I got a better chance to win the chip than the Heat? Like, let's say,
or the
like,
Timberwolves.
if I drew you like a rainbow tinted picture of the Heat's future, like they go on a 10 game win streak, Jimmy stays.
Yeah, they. I think the Rockets beat the Heat. I do. I mean, yeah. I mean, rose painted. If we get what legendary good playoff Jimmy was a couple of years ago, and granted, think about this, it's gonna be in the finals. And 2 seasons ago, he was worn down by the time he got to the finals. Still played pretty well, but he was not that guy that he was in the first few rounds. Um, I mean, and Tyler Hero is unbelievable. He deserves to be an All Star this year. We should do our All Star ballots in a
We
pod
should.
coming up, but
Yeah, actually, we're kind of
um,
trolling for that.
but like I don't know.
Could the Spurs be able to, if the everything went right for the Spurs, could we put them in this year?
No, not yet. I don't think so. I still put like the Timberwolves ahead of the Spurs.
Oh, really? I don't. Actually, I differ. That's
Wow.
actually quirky. I think that T-Wolves have some like infrastructural issues that I can't like pick them. Like that's like kind of my hang up with the T-Wolves. Like they
Mm,
need Julius Randle to figure it out. He's not gonna, in my opinion. He hasn't. And yeah, like they just have a talent gap at that point.
okay, but so just to round this out in
Okay.
this tier, so uh, let's call this so the Celtics Thunder feel like they can win the chip. Not surprising.
Yeah.
The Knicks, the Cavs, the Mavs, and the Nuggets, or the Nuggets and the Mavs, however we have it, whatever.
Stuff needs
That's
to go
like
right.
stuff needs to go right. Okay,
Yeah.
Bucks, Magic, Grizzlies, Magic, Bucks. That iteration. Are we leaving it at that? Is there anybody else? Are the
Yeah,
Rockets in there?
we should probably put the Rockets right. I mean,
I
I
just
just think there's still probably a gap. Like I almost think there's like a gap between them and then it's like the Rockets and it's like gap and then it's like Lakers, you know,
Spurs,
Lakers,
Heat,
Heat, Spurs.
Sixers.
Yeah, Sixers.
I think the Sixers are in there. They put the work on the Celtics.
The Warriors beat them by 40, bro.
Maybe it's just Caleb Martin nightmares that I'm having, but
Okay.
the,
Uh I'm gonna
all
put
right.
okay. Can I
Yeah.
spread my Memphis agenda and put them seventh?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll put Milwaukee eighth,
All right.
Orlando
Magic.
ninth.
All right.
10th. I'm down to put the Rockets.
All right.
Okay.
How
And
many
then
teams deep are we going here? Because like
okay,
we
well
we don't gotta talk about.
now we're 10 deep, but let's just look at okay, do you think the Rockets are in the tier above them? Do you think they're in their own tier or do you think they're in the tier under with Spurs, Lakers, Heat, etc.?
We've seen this before with teams that have gone from playing adjacent to 2, 3, or 4 seed, and it never works. Like it never works. So yeah, I'm gonna say no. Like they're gonna be in the same tier as the Spurs, the Timberwolves, the Heat.
With that. I'm with that a lot.
This, and I'll give the Sixers that respect just out of like these are what are these like? Are they? Is this the tier that's like puncher's chance to make the conference finals?
Like, okay, let's say you took the top nine off our list,
Yeah.
and I'm saying you're betting your
Mm,
college savings. You're betting you got 200,000 on the line. Who are you putting it on? You putting it on the Rockets? I think if I had like 200,000 on the line and it was like this whole group of teams, I might pick the Spurs. I really might pick the Spurs. You
how
could
about
talk me into dude, this is crazy. You could also talk me into the Clippers, but whatever.
how about the Lakers?
No. But not enough scoring. Both not enough scoring and not enough defense.
Now
Captain
with
two.
DFS, now with Reeves playing well.
Not for me. Maybe. Maybe. The thing is that if the 2 first-round picks are on the table, like I can talk myself into crazy stuff with them. The thing is, who are they getting? I don't know. But
Oh,
like,
not for
let's go
him.
get Daron Sharp
Yeah,
and let's get someone else. The thing is,
yeah,
they have no salaries. They have zero salary. The Daron Sharp. You can only trade for Daron Sharp because you make it 2 mil this year.
yeah. They're cooked.
Yeah, that's my issue with the Lakers. Pacers. You get James Wiseman come back for the NBA Finals after
Ah, man.
it's
I
10 month
mean,
Achilles injury.
yo, low key. Okay, nah, this is crazy, but I might take the Pistons over the Pacers.
Oh, that's spicy.
I
That's
don't know. I don't
bro.
know if that's like
Okay.
foul,
Do
but
you think? Do you think? Okay. Is your secret take that Cade is better than Halliburton right now?
that's not even a secret. He just is. He's a better basketball player at the moment.
That's
Like the way,
honestly fair, honestly. But
like
like, are you? Would you take Halliburton in a playoff? You still would take Cade in a playoff run over Halliburton right now?
we just haven't seen Kid in the
Yeah.
playoffs. Though. Let's see this
Are you
shit.
taking LaMelo over both of them?
Ooh.
No, I'm not. I love LaMelo, but I can't. Even though he's gonna be an all-star starter.
I'm a storm in the corner. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, he's not going to be a starter.
He's number one in the Eastern Conference backcourt, bro.
Oh, I sure hope he's not. That's, I mean, I believe what you're saying, but
Hey, I'm
that's
with
a
it. I think
terrible
it.
take.
Wait,
Oh
he
God,
should be an all-star. He should be an all-star.
he should be an all-star, but not a starter.
Nah, let him start, bro. He's gonna literally shoot a half court. He's literally gonna shoot a half court shot to start the game. He's made for the All-Star game. I don't even care if he's a starter or not. Wiggins was a
Fine.
starter, bro. He won't even be the worst starter
That
the last
was
5 years.
that was friggin' disgusting. Wiggins being a starter. Couldn't even get me started on that. That was terrible. That was ugly.
Get some better fans, man.
Damn, we should do a list of like the worst all-star starters of the last 10 years. Kemba Walker is on that list as well. The
Yeah,
Celtics. That was bad.
Old Yao Ming is on that list. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some guys.
Old Kobe. Oh my God. Kobe
Oh
was limping
yeah,
around. Kobe was
yeah.
limping around.
That
Remember,
one.
okay, remember when they made Wade and Dirk the honorary
Oh yeah, that was weird.
bench
I didn't like
warmers?
that. I
Yeah, it
didn't
was
like
kind of
that.
like, dude, their basketball reference pages are so weird because of that.
Yeah, like don't. I mean, all like we can't live in the world of championships or nothing because it's just not a good way to view basketball. So all-star games mean something, and so don't give it to those guys.
Hey, Wiseman's got a chip. He's better than I was gonna say he's better than Siakam, but Siakam is a chip too. So cooked.
That's so
Um,
funny. So
yeah, no, I
funny.
tend to agree. I think ring culture is an overall net negative.
It's a
So you
big
kind of
issue.
need to.
Yeah,
I care about the sanctity of all NBA teams and all star teams because of that. You know.
I respect that.
Anyways, okay, our final list.
Oh yes,
Now that we've devolved into talking about Dwayne Wade's all-star
like
appearance in his final
honorary.
season.
Yeah,
Celtics, Thunder, Gap, Cavaliers, or no, Knicks, Cavaliers, Mavericks, Nuggets, Gap,
yep,
Grizzlies, Milwaukee, Orlando, Gap,
yep.
Houston, and everyone else you want.